All right. Congratulations. You've survived the entire unit here. This is the last one we have. This is elasticity of demand and supply. Excuse me. And what our standard is asking us to do is just basically define what each one of them means and what each one of them is, right? So that's what we're going to get into. All right, so a review real quick, right? Quantity demanded, right? This is basically just a review of the law of demand, right? And the law of demand tells us that when the price of something goes up, again, the quantity demanded is going to go down, and the exact opposite. When the price of something goes down, the quantity demanded is going to go up, right? So prices are low, we want more. Prices are high, we want less. Okay, so elasticity, right? And we talked about this, right, just a second ago, right? When price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. That's what the law of demand tells us. What elasticity tells us is when price goes up, how much does quantity change, right? Is it going to change a lot? Is it going to change a little bit, right? So we're going to look at two different concepts, right? We've got elastic demand and we've got inelastic demand, okay? And these are two measures of elasticity, right? So we talk about elastic demand. These are things that honestly you could probably think of them as they're things you could probably live without, right? So usually a lot of times we have elastic demand for stuff that it has a lot of substitutes, right? So maybe you could think of like a particular brand of water, right? So maybe Aquafina, right? Your demand for Aquafina is usually going to be a little more elastic because there's a lot of substitutes, right? So I may say, well, if Aquafina is $1.50 and Dasani is $1, well, I'm going to buy the Aquafina, or I'm sorry, I'm going to buy the Dasani because the Aquafina is just too expensive. So now I'm not going to buy any Aquafina because it's more expensive. So basically, you just look at it as it's things that we can pretty much live without unless the price is right. Right, looking down here, inelastic demand, right? These are things that pretty much there's no way we can live without these, right? These are the things that we say in our mind, I have to have them. All right, and in thinking about extremes right here, right, you could think about a diabetic, right? A diabetic has to have insulin, right? So they're going to pretty much be willing, no matter what the price is, it's not really going to affect how much they buy, right? And same thing, we talked about EpiPens in class too, right? And a big reason why EpiPens are going so high is because the companies know that consumers have inelastic demand for them. So they know that these people have to have it, and pretty much no matter what price they charge, they're still going to buy it. Okay, so what is it that actually determines if it's elastic or not, right? Again, right? How many substitutes are there, right? Are there a lot of substitutes or are there not a lot of substitutes? We'll take our two examples, right? If we go with Aquafina water, well, there's all kinds of substitutes. There's all kinds of bottled water out there, right? So because of that, our demand is going to be a little more elastic for Aquafina. All right. If we look at again for EpiPens or for insulin, well, there's hardly any substitutes out there. There's nothing that takes the place of those things, so they're going to be more inelastic, right? How much of your budget you actually spend on something, right? Chances are the more of your budget that you spend on something, the more inelastic your demand is going to be. Or I'm sorry, the more elastic your demand is going to be. Right? Elastic. Okay, so the higher the percentage, the more elastic it's going to be because you're going to be a lot more responsive to changes in price, right? You're going to be a lot more. So if we're looking for a house, right? Well, if the house is $100,000, well, if the price drops to $90,000, we may be willing to buy it, whereas at 100,000 we weren't. But something that we spend a really small percentage of our income on, like maybe a pack of gum, right? Well, realistically, most folks, whenever they buy gum, they usually don't even look at the price, right? They just go up there, throw it on the counter, and they buy it, right? And the last one, how much time do we have to change, right? How much time are we going to have before we have to buy something, right? So a great example for this one is tires, right? If I know that in the next 6 months I've got to have tires, I've got time to shop around, right? I can look around. So if I've got a lot of time, my demand is going to be more elastic, right? But if I'm riding down the road today and my tire blows up and it's completely shot, I can't patch it, I can't do anything to it. Well, then my demand is going to be more inelastic because I don't have a lot of time to respond. I'm pretty much going to have to go and buy a tire from the closest place that I can find one. My demand is more inelastic, so it pretty much doesn't matter the price. I've got to have a tire, so I'm going to buy it no matter what the price is. All right, so another review right here. This is just the law of supply. And all it tells us is that when the price of something goes up, the quantity supplied is going to go up, right? So the higher the price, the more producers want to sell, right? And again, we've got two different kinds, right? As far as elasticity is concerned, right? How much do producers change whenever price changes, right? How much more quantity are they going to make? So when price goes up, how much does quantity go up? Right. So the first one here, elastic supply, right? This tells us that when the price goes up, producers are going to change a lot, right? They're going to make a lot more of it whenever the price goes up. So you might think about corn farmers right here, right? If the price of corn rises, they're going to make a lot more corn next year, or I mean anything that pretty much that's easy to make, right? The last one down here, whenever price changes, these folks, the inelastic supply, they're not going to change supply very much because they can't, right? And you're going to see it on the next slide because what is it? It's time, pretty much. That's really all this slide tells us, right? Is it's time, wanting, being able to do things, right? So if a farmer wants to make more corn, right, and they have to do it right now, right, and it's this very they've got to be able to supply more corn. They're not going to be able to because corn takes time to grow, right? Another great example, handmade furniture. All right, any kind of handmade furniture is going to take a lot longer to make because you got to wait for glue to dry, you got to wait for paint to dry, things like this. A great example of elastic supply. Well, what if McDonald's needs more French fries? Well, they walk to the cooler, they grab the French fries, they throw them in the fryer, right? If a paperclip company wants to make more paper clips, they turn the machine on high, right? And it's going to spit more paper clips out. It doesn't take a long time to be able to adjust, right? So they can make it very quickly. And that's really the only thing that determines whether it's elastic supply or inelastic supply. All right, but same old, same old. You got questions, ask them, bring them on. Have a great day.